The Sega Master System may not have been as dominant as the NES, but it featured some of the best 8-bit gaming experiences of its time. We're diving into some of the best and maybe even a few hidden gems of the Sega Master System library. From iconic titles that shaped the 8-bit era to lesser known games that still hold up today, we got it all. Now, if you want to support the show, please leave a like and a comment as well as hit the notification bell for more content. It's a small thing from you guys, but it means so much for the show. If you want to support the show financially, you can do it at patreon.com/retrowars, where you can get actively involved in the weekly podcast, join our community called the Smut Squad, and receive an additional podcast each week, and you'll find the link in the description below. Now, whether you're reliving your childhood memories or discovering these games for the first time, stick around because we're about to take a nostalgic trip down memory lane. So grab your controllers, fire up your emulators, and let's get into it. Here are a list of 7 classic Master System games. Alex the Kid. This was Sega's attempt to compete with Super Mario Bros., and for many Master System owners, it was also their first gaming experience because the game came pre-installed on later models of the console, which I can't argue is absolutely awesome and fair play to you. It just didn't hit the heights that Mario did. It featured tight platforming, unique power-ups, and puzzle-solving elements, which is ridiculous because the puzzles didn't make sense. But also, some of these experiences you got to use vehicles like a motorcycle, a boat, a helicopter to navigate levels, but you needed to have ninja-like reflexes to use them. One of its most unusual mechanics was the rock, paper, scissors, the boss battles, or called jackin' matches. Like if you lost, you had to start the stage over, but who the heck thought rock, paper, scissors was a good idea for boss battles? Really? Come on now. The diverse levels design include underwater sections, castle dungeons, and tricky platforming challenges, and tricky is an understatement. While the series didn't continue for long, Alex Kidd remains a nostalgic icon for Sega fans. Just not me. Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, unlike Alex Kidd, I am a huge Sonic fan. Look at the logo for the show, for God's sake. This version of Sonic was completely different from the Genesis or Mega Drive version, with exclusive levels, music, and a more methodical playing style. Since the Master System couldn't handle the speed of the Genesis game, this version focused on more precise jumping and exploration, making it feel more like a traditional platformer. It included unique boss battles, such as a fight against Robotnik in a water-filled cavern without rings, meaning one hit and it was fatal, and as we know, Sonic usually doesn't control that well. The 8-bit soundtrack, while different from the Genesis version, was catchy and well composed, and it's generally considered one of the best Sonic games on the 8-bit system, and even got a Game Gear port. Well, they all got Game Gear ports. Just don't play those. Just stay away from them. Phantasy Star. Now, at the time when Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest were defining the JRPG genre, Phantasy Star stood out by incorporating a sci-fi setting with a strong female protagonist and a deep story. It really does compared to most games. It was one of the first JRPGs to feature 3D dungeon crawling, which you're going to spend all day in because you're just going to get lost because there was no map. And it was a feature though, however, that was incredibly advanced for an 8-bit console, and you've got to give it that, it looked absolutely extraordinary. The game world was massive and spanned 3 multiple planets, which is a rare feature in RPGs at the time, and a floating castle that you need a stupid cat to get up there with, which still infuriates me to this day. It had turn-based combat that was strategic and challenging, requiring careful resource management because you're going to die a lot, because the enemies hit like an absolute truck, and it's very annoying. It laid the groundwork for the Phantasy Star series, which later evolved into Sega's flagship RPG franchise with games like Phantasy Star Online, which is considered one of the greatest games ever made. Wonder Boy 3: The Dragon's Trap. This could be seen as one of the most ambitious action games of the 8-bit era, as it mixed platforming, RPG mechanics, and a Metroid-like exploration. Now, Wonder Boy's 3 unique thing was the ability to transform into different creatures, each with their own special abilities. Example, the Lizard Man breathes fire, Hawkman can fly. Awesome. Yay, well done, Hawkman. Yeah, I'm sure copyright DC are coming after you. Players could collect gold, buy better equipment, and find secret rooms, which added that RPG-like progression system. The non-linear gameplay encouraged players to backtrack and discover hidden paths, much like later Metroidvania titles, but we never talk about that when it comes to this. Its popularity led to a beautiful HD remake in 2017, proving its timeless age's appeal. Although I'm not really a fan of Wonder Boy, Link Monster World, that's the next one. There's something about that game that just frustrates me to no end. R-Type. Now, why is this a classic? Now, R-Type was already a hit in arcades, but the Master System version was one of the best home ports, keeping the intense side-scrolling shooter action intact. The game introduced the iconic Force Pod, which was an upgradable companion weapon that added depth to the combat strategy. Huge screen-filling bosses and complex enemy attack patterns made this one of the most challenging shoot-em-ups of its time, made me whimper. The Master System port contained smooth performance despite the hardware limitations, making it stand out on the console, because you'd think with an 8-bit console it's just going to crumple in on itself, but it didn't. It basically showed that the little Master System could do amazing things if it was just given the chance. This version of R-Type was so well received that it remains one of the best 8-bit shooters ever made. Shinobi. Now, we all know the arcade version of Shinobi was a hit, but the Master System version offered new features, like a health bar, making it far more forgiving than its arcade counterpart, because Shinobi was brutal, like play Shadow Dancer on the Mega Drive, that's just as brutal as well. You play as Joe Musashi, a ninja on a mission to rescue his kidnapped students and take down a criminal organisation. The tight, action platforming gameplay required precise jumps, quick reflexes, and a mastery of weapons like shurikens, swords, and ninja magic. It had varied level design, including city rooftops, secret hideouts, and underground lairs, keeping the gameplay fresh, and that's all you need sometimes. This version helped solidify Shinobi as one of the Sega's premier franchises, eventually leading to the beloved Revenge of Shinobi on the Mega Drive, which is one of the first games I ever owned and played. And finally, Golden Axe Warrior. Often called Sega's answer to The Legend of Zelda, Golden Axe Warrior was a top-down action RPG set in the Golden Axe universe. Instead of a side-scrolling beat-em-up like the classic Golden Axe, this game focused on open-world exploration, puzzle solving, and dungeon crawling. The gameplay structure was very similar to Zelda, with a grid-based overworld, secret caves, and item-based progression. You wonder, did it just look at Zelda and go, wow, that's a good idea, that sold millions, let's just copy-paste that thing and just alter it and say don't look at my homework. It featured multiple dungeons, each with unique challenges and bosses. And though it wasn't known well as Zelda, Golden Axe Warrior became a cult favourite among Master System fans, proving that Sega could do a strong action RPG. It's just a shame we never really hear about Golden Axe because this franchise is kind of in trouble. As I said at the beginning, the Sega Master System may have not had the same mainstream success as the NES, but it was home to some truly great games that did push the limits of 8-bit gaming. And many of these titles today help define Sega's legacy, with franchises like Sonic, Phantasy Star, and Shinobi continuing to this day. But which of these games do you think is the best? Or is there another Master System classic you want to add to the list? I'll see you in a few days for the next list, but please remember to hit that like and subscribe button to follow up with the show or join in with the podcast over at Pateron. Until then, my name's been Danny, take care of yourself, bye bye.